everyone. Good morning and welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That's the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. This is Nick Wright. It is time for football officially.
We made it. Good morning.
Starting our third season.
Through the preseason.
Got some Super Bowl picks coming in the show.
Yeah, what else?
Got some exciting stuff.
Good.
And
make
a
fun
great
of Nick
name
the whole
to kick
show.
off the year. Say it again.
Jenna and I are going to make fun of Nick the whole show.
Well, I mean, that's
So it's
why
a day
start
of the
off year
week.
3 of our show any different way than we did years 1 and 2.
Big show today. All right, so Zeke met the media after signing his mega deal. Wait till you hear what he had to say. We got more drama, if it's possible. Yes, it is, surrounding Antonio Brown. But like we mentioned, we're starting off with football because the 100th NFL season kicks off tonight, finally, and it is a showdown. NFC North contenders set to contend. Packers and Bears. A lot of preseason hype surrounding these two teams. Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers will be playing in his 15th season and playing the Bears for the 22nd time in his career. So he knows this rivalry awfully well.
It's always been a great rivalry. It's one of the special ones in the history of professional sports. Obviously, a lot of great players and great names on both sides have played in this game, and it's fun to be a part of it.
Khalil, what did you come to appreciate about the Bears-Packers rivalry over the year you've been here?
Just second Aaron Rodgers, man.
With your back.
It's always fun. It's always fun playing against that guy, going against one of the best in the game, and understanding that it's one of the biggest rivalries. It just ups that level of competition.
It's going to be fun. All right, Nick, let's start breaking it down. What is the key to tonight's game?
What will the new Packers offense under Matt LaFleur look like? And no matter what offense they run, can they protect Aaron Rodgers? Last year in week 1, the Packers had a stirring 20-point second-half comeback against the Chicago Bears, but it was a very costly victory because Aaron Rodgers was carted off the field early in that football game. We got a preview of how monstrous that Bears defense really was going to be, and I would argue over the next 6 to 8 weeks, Aaron Rodgers was not himself. You've got, if you're Green Bay, Chicago, Minnesota, Denver, Philly, Dallas. Those are your first 5 football games of the season. You need Aaron Rodgers to be fully functional, fully mobile, and not dinged early if this season's going to have as much promise as I think it can have with the Packers potentially winning the conference. So that's first and foremost, and secondarily on the Packers side of things, see, how is this team in this game and this year going to utilize Aaron Jones? 2 years ago, Aaron Jones averaged 5.5 yards per carry. He got 81 carries on the season. Last year, Aaron Jones averaged 5.5 yards per carry. He got 133 carries on the season. Are you going to see if he can have even close to that per carry production with a legitimate number 1 running back workload? Those are, to me, the questions for the Packers offensively, for the game, and then for the beginning of the season as a whole.
Yes, Nick's very, very high on Green Bay this year, so I'll start off, Jenna, with Green Bay. Their ability, can they be physical? One of the things people always talk about with Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers, they fell out. Well, the organization, they fell out with Mike McCarthy because they felt like his style, him as a coach, like he was supposed to be a rugged football coach and be very disciplined, but they weren't a very physical football team. They didn't practice very physical, so that's why they went out in free agency. They changed their whole style. They went out and started spending money in free agency, and they hoped to be a physical defense. But offensively, you have to be able to complement that defense, and you have to be able to run the ball. Last season, Aaron Rodgers, we know he got nicked in that first game, but, man, it was mind-boggling for me because I went back and looked at last year. They won 1 game on the road. Now, if they're going to reach their potential, what Nick thinks it's going to be is deep into the playoffs, they're going to have to be a good road team. It starts tonight with a divisional game in Chicago. Chicago, it's about their coach and their quarterback. Can Matt Nagy, their coach, who is young, a student of Andy Reid, a prodigy of Andy Reid, can he come up with enough creative things for their quarterback, who I believe ultimately will be able to throw the ball? He's got a big-time arm. Will he be able to get the accuracy to be able to make plays down the field? And they have a new running back, David Montgomery from Iowa State, the 3rd-round back. The reason why they got off of Jordan Howard and let him go to the Eagles. How much does he run the ball? Can he be dominant inside the tackles? Because when they drafted him from Iowa State, that was their expectation.
And then with the Bears defense, it looks pretty much the same as last year, maybe 1 or 2 additions, and that's about it. That's probably for the Packers going to be their biggest issue.
Well,
tonight.
listen, there are a few units in football that we just flatly know are the best in the league. The Bears linebacking core, without question. The whole rest of the league's fighting for second place. When you go Mack, Trevathan, Roquan Smith, Leonard Floyd as your 4 linebackers in a 3-4 defense, any one of those guys could potentially be the best linebacker on a lot of other teams in football. So that is going to be their strength. One of the quiet parts of why last season didn't end the way they wanted it to, yes, everyone points to the double doink, and the Bears, by the way, still have questions at kicker, is Eddie Jackson, their safety, got hurt in late season game on a play. He made an interception. He made an interception trying to return it out the back of the end zone, got his leg rolled up on, and he ended up not being available for the playoff run. That secondary, that defensive front, that Bears defense as a whole, of course, is going to have to once again be a top 5 unit in football.
Yes, Jenna, they're one of the unique units in pro football with basically 30 to 40% change. They're coming back with 10 starters. They lose one of their safeties. He goes over to Green Bay. Their biggest change defensively is going to be our friend Coach Pagano. A friend of the show is back coaching. He hadn't been a defensive coordinator in 8 years. So how does he build upon Vic Fangio going over to Denver to be the head coach? How does he build on what they did last year with the addition of an offseason? Because Roquan, he wasn't there in training camp last year because of contract, and we know Khalil Mack, they didn't get him until on basically the eve of week number 1. So I believe they build on what they did last year.
And then CC's high on Mitch Trubisky, but for a lot of people, the jury's still out. Who are you going to get? And I think that might be one of the bigger question marks for the Bears.
Well, it's a huge question mark for Matt Nagy, because you're right that he's an Andy Reid disciple. He wants to be, even with this great defense, an aggressive offensive coach.
Yes.
Push the ball down the field.
Absolutely.
They traded up they were sitting at number 3 in the draft a couple years ago. They wanted Mitch so badly, they trade up 1 spot with San Francisco to make sure they get him. When you do that, and now the quarterback is in year 3, when you took him over Deshaun, over Patrick Mahomes, I don't think you can at this point in his career say he's just going to be a caretaker. You have to give him the ability to show that he was worthy of that draft spot, that he can be not just a passenger on the ride, but a few games a season, the guy driving the car for your team to win.
And they have an explosive wide receiving core. In this game, watch for Trey Burton, their tight end. Trey came over last year from Philadelphia, really made good contributions. He's got an injury. He's a game-time decision. But their wide receivers and Tyreek Cohen, they need to get these guys in space. And watch for Allen Robinson. He came over last year from Jacksonville, but he was coming off a knee injury. Typically, that second year after the knee injury, you see them typically get back to 100%. So the wide receiving core, they added Cordell Patterson. So they're going to be running sideways. They're going to be doing a lot of things like Kansas City, but you are right. His pedigree is pushing the ball down the field, and we'll know how much confidence the coach has based on his play calling, Nick.
And one other note about this first game of the season. All losses, all wins, I don't believe are created equal, even if they count equal in the standings. First game of last year's NFL season. It was Philadelphia-Atlanta, and Atlanta not only lost, but lost for them in the worst way imaginable. They had been knocked out in the playoffs by Philly because they had a 1st and goal inside the 10, down less than a touchdown. They couldn't punch it in. The following year, last year, week 1, 1st and goal inside the 10, can't punch it in. I say that to say this. If the Bears can lose tonight and it won't derail their season, if somehow they lose and Eddie Pinheiro, their kicker, is involved, if all of a sudden it's a 1-point game or a 2-point game and Pinheiro comes out there for a game-winning field goal.
You get the feeling it's going to be a narrative.
If you have a critical missed kick early in the year for Chicago, given the heartbreak they suffered last year with the double doink, that could be worth a couple losses in the standings. So just something to watch.
Yeah, amazing way for the NFL to start season 100 with the celebration of 2 of our oldest franchises. Also, Nick, this meeting, they're 97-95. Green Bay is up in this by 2 wins over all these years. So tremendous creative way by the league to start off this year, not having the Super Bowl champs. They'll open on Sunday.
And it might be a preview of each of our Super Bowl picks. I'm not sure exactly who Cris is going with, but Green Bay, Chicago, we'll be talking about them throughout the year.
All right, Packers in Chicago, game 1. The NFL regular season kicks off tonight. We will talk much more about this coming up. But on the other side, More from Antonio Brown. Did he go too far this time in his latest Instagram post? That's next on FS1. You can always check us out on the Fox Sports channel on SiriusXM. We'll be right back.
Was he lying on Instagram, Jenna?
No. Why would anyone do that?
Oh, okay. Okay. It's time to celebrate. Football is finally back, and DraftKings, the leader in one-day fantasy football, has huge Week 1 contests. The first one starts this Thursday night when Chicago and Green Bay kick off the season in a single-game showdown with $2.5 million in total prizes up for grabs. Draft your single-game showdown lineup and feel the sweat like never before. It's simple. Just draft 6 players from the season opener, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Plus, new users who sign up today on DraftKings using code FTF will receive a free shot at the $1 million top prize. Nothing adds to the sweat of watching the game quite like having a shot at $1 million payday. Get in on the season opener action. Download the DraftKings app now and use code FTF. For a limited time, both new and existing users can get a deposit bonus of up to $500. And new users, don't miss this extra special Week 1 bonus. Enter our code FTF to get a free shot at $1 million with your first deposit. That's code FTF only at DraftKings. Make it rain. Minimum $5 deposit required. Deposit bonus requires a 25 times playthrough. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
Welcome back. We'll get to Antonio Brown in just a second. But first, some high school football. This out in Michigan, Holt High's Charles Allen up like a grown man.
Grown man going against babies. Goodness gracious, son.
Look at that.
Jumped over the kid's head. Nice release. Played the ball's highest point. Textbook stuff. And finished the play. I like that. Hey, son, you're in bump and run. Bump and run, you're supposed to reach out and touch the guy.
Not the greatest. The safety just stops and looks. Not the greatest.
All right, more high school football. Check this out. Running back from San Bernardino hurdling a defender, causing 2 other defenders basically just run into each other.
In San Bernardino, can we get somebody to water the grass?
Look at that.
Can my kids play on some grass?
And in the defender's defense, if you will, 2 guys running into each other, everyone's wearing black jerseys. I mean, he might have. That's going to be confusing.
That's a good point. All right, Cheyenne Mountain High School in Colorado. Brad Helton laying out for a nice grab here.
Oh, that ain't the only thing in Colorado getting high right there.
Nope,
I like that, Brad. Great catch. He mistimed his jump. Yeah, Colorado, it's legal out there.
Got it, yep. I'm a beat behind now, but now I'm right on
I got it. Brad snagged
he did
that
mistime his jump. He went and got it on the way down.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Good throw by the quarterback.
All right, finally, University of the Philippines guard Ricky Paulo Rivero throwing down the alley-oop.
University of the Philippines. And a little post-dunk 360, which you don't see very often. Almost lands on a fella's head. I like that. Maybe that guy can play.
That'd be a nice little place to end up playing some ball.
University of the Philippines?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. I've never been over there. I assume it's nice.
Nice part of the world.
Okay.
Beautiful women.
Okay.
Okay.
That's good to know.
On to Antonio Brown, and I was waiting for the geographical topography of the Philippine, the
Not
area.
only what you're looking at, what you're looking at.
Antonio Brown, for whatever reason, perhaps because it is intertwined in his DNA, simply cannot avoid drama. AB was fined for missing practices this preseason, something that didn't happen an awful lot in Pittsburgh, getting fined for anything. Yesterday, he posted this on the gram, a letter from General Manager Mike Mayock fining him $54,000, to which Brown responded, quote, "When your own team want to hate." All right, Nick, what was your reaction to this?
All right, so listen, AB posting this is just a total goofball move. It continues his trend of erratic and a behavior where he clearly thinks there's a set of rules for everyone and a set of rules for him. I'm less, though, interested in what AB did and more interested in what was actually included in this letter that we got to see, because the final line of it I find very interesting. It's signed by Mike Mayock. It's a letter from Mike Mayock, and it reads, "The Raiders reserve the right to impose additional remedies available under the club's discipline schedule, the CBA, and your NFL player contract, including but not limited to additional fines and discipline, and here's the most important part, for engaging in conduct detrimental to the club. To me, this is, and anyone that's worked in a corporation knows this, you got an HR file, and if at some point they want to fire you with cause as opposed to without cause, they go to that file and they say, well, you did this, you did this, you did this. You were warned on this instance, you were warned on this instance, and now we can wipe our hands clean of you. Antonio Brown's contract with the Raiders is a 3-year contract. The first 2 years are fully guaranteed. The only way to sever that prior to year 3 and not still owe him all the money for year 2 is if they say conduct detrimental to the club, no show, no call, those types of things, we can get out of that money. I'm not saying, Cris, the Raiders right now want to get out of that money, but they are starting to create an escape hatch based on Antonio's own actions. So if they do want to get out of the money, they can go back to things like this and say, you did this to yourself.
And he actually helped the Raiders by posting this online. He didn't need to do this. This could have been a private matter, and now everyone knows. I don't know, CC. I've been very patient, you guys know, this preseason with anyone who's had any issues. But, I mean, enough is enough already with Antonio Brown. The season hasn't started yet. You show up in a hot air balloon. You really miss all of preseason. You barely make it to any practices. You got an issue with the helmet, 2 grievances filed. Your cryotherapy didn't work on your feet. And now this. I just feel like if I'm frustrated, the Raiders have to be frustrated. Again, he hasn't even taken the field yet.
Well, the thing about this is Mike Mayock, and good for Mike Mayock, because Mike Mayock, he laid the hammer down. Now, I know that John Gruden has the 10-year deal, and he personally went out and found Mike Mayock. And for Mike's sake, this is one of the things that's disturbing to me, because he's a guy that had a job like I've had. He played a little bit of pro ball, but he's covered this game, and he's more than qualified to be a general manager. And when these coaches and owners go outside the box as far as hiring general manager, him and John Lynch there in San Francisco, I'm cheering for these guys, just like I was cheering for Matt Millen when he got the job in Detroit. The reason why, it creates tremendous opportunity for people in the business, because I believe that old school approach, it's old and dead. And you can be a general manager by different routes than the avenues that they've looked at. So I'm glad he laid the hammer down. This is something I've taught younger players since they came into the league, because they don't know this. They don't understand there's an HR department. They don't understand that at one point it's going to be you against the team. And every NFL team, from the time you walk in their locker room, they create a file for you. One on the football business side and one on the medical side. I used to tell kids, if you go into the training room and ask them for 2 aspirin, they are going to write it down and start to build a file. So later on, they say, we treated you the appropriate way, and it's the same way on the field or with discipline. And that's what Mayock did yesterday. He let Antonio, because of the collective bargaining agreement, because of the team rules, all those things, I'm going to be able to get out of this deal. AB, I said this. He's going to be in Oakland 2 years. He won't finish there. Like, he's going to be traveling around the NFL trying to find himself a home until retirement. But this is what happens when you don't discipline, when you don't. This is not the first time he's been late. It's the first time someone held him accountable and took his money. And you see it took his money. That's why fines are important, because it gets the players' attention. So I'm glad for Mike Mayock that he was able to put the hammer down, because this is going to continue. I said when he got there, it was going to continue. When they rewarded him with those guarantees, it was going to continue. And John Gruden and his whole act with him in Hard Knocks and everything, that's just playing up to the camera. But I'm glad someone did something.
And the other part of this that we didn't read the full part of, AB's caption, he wrote, when your own team wants to hate, but there's no stopping me now. Devil's a lie. Everyone's got to pay this year, so we're clear. When your own team wants to hate is the most interesting part of that caption, because he looks at being treated the way everyone on the team would be treated for skipping a walkthrough and no showing a practice as the team hating on him. Because, to the point you made, in Pittsburgh, he was allowed to operate as one of one. a separate set of rules for Antonio and a separate set of rules for nearly everyone else on the team. And this is not that different than, to me, and it's almost embarrassing to say because he's a grown man in his 30s, but as an overindulged, spoiled kid that all of a sudden goes out into the real world and is like, wait, what? I have to put my own dishes in the dishwasher?
When you don't discipline kids, the only difference between men and boys are the price of their toys. That's the only difference. No age has nothing to do with this. If he had kept the type of discipline that got him from being homeless to being a D1 player to being a Pro Bowl player, we wouldn't have a problem. But in Pittsburgh, he did these types of things, and Pittsburgh allowed their other star players to do these types of things. So he wasn't the only one there in Pittsburgh, but it wasn't addressed. And now Oakland, look what they not inherited. Look what they traded for.
Right.
What they went out and got.
I told you guys, Amari Cooper.
The same time we did.
Man, no. Amari Cooper, I got one daughter. Man, if he happened to meet her and they were to date, because he is a gentleman, he's a great guy. Khalil Mack, a perfect citizen, Buffalo. Man, what he's doing in Chicago. And you're going to go out and trade for this? This is the culture that you invested in.
I love that this segment quickly turned to NFL players who could date my daughter.
Amari Cooper might be one on that list, too. Not on that list.
Much more first things first.
I don't care how much money they got.
Coming up. Are you ready for what's ahead? You can't always predict the future, but you can game plan for it. Generations of families and businesses have harnessed the power of Pacific to help them reach their unique goals. Whether you need to save money to meet your needs, ensure your family is protected, or make sure you don't run out of money, Pacific Life has a variety of financial solutions that can help. Pacific Life counts more than half of the 100 largest U.S. companies as its clients and has been named one of the 2019 world's most ethical companies by the Ethisphere Institute. Protecting what matters most to people for 150 years and counting, that's the power of Pacific. Ask a financial professional about how Pacific Life can help you game plan for your future, or visit www.pacificlife.com. All right, time for us to go viral. Terrell Suggs and the Cardinals open the season Sunday against the Lions at 4:25 on Fox. After 16 seasons in Baltimore as one of the best linebackers in the league, not everybody knows Suggs wasn't always just a star on defense. Check out the Throwback Thursday video of T-Sizzle running wild in high school. He actually, he once held the state record with 367 yards rushing in a game.
Yeah, who's going to tackle him?
T-Sizzle. I love it. There's a campaign the NFL has. They got players showing videos and pictures of them in high school. #PlayFootball, encouraging kids to continue playing high school football. And look at this. Tell me he doesn't have on a size 18 shoe.
To run up the gut.
Yes, a dive. Basic football, dive, toss left. Toss it to the beast.
Oh, I'd love to know how many kids quit high school football
when they
the day after they matched up against Terrell Suggs, the high school running back.
That's really funny.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I used to take a handful of kids and tell them, listen, I'm never going to have you involved in contact like that. I'm going to have your experience nice. The girls in the stands going to know you're on the team, but I'm not going to allow you to get hit. I know what you're here for.
My God. That breakaway speed I did not see coming.
T-Sizzle.
That was
still
great
playing
video.
Back in Arizona with the Cardinals.
Absolutely. Trying to get himself into that top 10 all-time NFL sack list. Wow.
That was impressive.
All right, time for stories to start your morning. So yesterday, Colin Kaepernick posted this video of himself working out with Odell Beckham. See, what'd you make of the video? Besides Odell wearing a beanie in probably 90-plus degree temperatures.
I'm glad because I had requested this. I had requested the Cap. Man, send me some video. Cap sent me lifting weights and everything. Okay, man, I know your body and everything is tight. As soon as we saw that, Jenna was like, I need to see some football. So then I hit him back. Hey, Cap, I need to see you throwing the football. So for me, just like before, it's hard for me to believe there's 78 quarterbacks that are signed on NFL rosters better than that guy. He's still out there working, still committed to trying to get back on the NFL roster.
Yeah, and I don't know if Cap will do it, but God, I hope he signs up with the XFL just to show these teams what they're missing other than just via these videos. But I loved this. These are two of my favorite guys, two guys in the league that I know personally, and see them working together I thought was great.
Now I want to see unedited video. Just show me raw video.
Just keep changing.
Listen.
Let's
That was
keep
really
moving
good.
the goalposts.
I just want to see
And OBJ, I'm glad OBJ participated in that. That was
Not
good.
asking
Move it.
too much.
Now, then play in a game.
Nope.
Go buy a
Nope.
team
Just
and make
unedited.
yourself the quarterback. If you really want to play.
NFL season kicks off tonight, guys. We know that. Not a minute too soon. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers will face off against Khalil Mack and the Bears. According to Fox Bet, the Bears are 3-point favorites. Nick, who you picking tonight?
Well, first of all, I'd like to see not just highlights. I'd like unedited video.
It will be unedited video when we
listen,
watch.
I got the Packers winning tonight. I got them covering the 3. I'm the plus the points and winning outright. Like a first little underdog win of the season for the Green Bay Packers tonight, Cris Carter.
Yeah, I believe that the Bears are able to defend the home field advantage that they have, that defense. I don't believe that the Packers are going to run the ball. I believe there's going to be a little bit of a struggle with Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur. And this is a tremendous test going against the #1 scoring defense. And I believe Coach Pagano, in his first game coaching the Bears defense, he's coming after Aaron Rodgers. He ain't going to be able to sit back there. He better have a couple audibles up under his sleeve.
Okay.
I'm going with the Bears.
All right, moving on. Antonio Brown hopped on Instagram last night responding to a letter saying the Raiders were fining him $54,000, that for missed practice this offseason. He responded the only way he can, saying his own team is hating on him. Nick, what'd you make of this?
I'm going to tell a story very, very quickly. 3 years ago at the Super Bowl, Antonio, right after the Instagram Live thing in the locker room, was walking by. Cris and I, before the show existed, before we even knew we were going to have a show together, we're doing some internet thing. And Cris ran over to Antonio and said, let's talk. He saw the direction he was going. I think about that all the time. Because Antonio, best I know, never took you up on it, went his own path, and since then has just kept elevating his level of crazy. His production has been unquestionable, but his standing in the league and his decision-making has been disastrous. I always wonder, because there have been other receivers who maybe could have gone one way and got it right, either via you or other older mentors. Antonio's doing his own thing. This is not surprising. This is who he is at this point, but I think about that moment all the time.
Yeah, I'm happy for Mike Mayock, because I don't believe that Mike Mayock wanted to sign Antonio. I believe it was forced by John Gruden. But I'm glad Mike Mayock, I'm glad his name was on that paper, because they have set themselves up that when we do get divorced, to let you know that there were warning signs. And the Pittsburgh Steelers didn't do anybody any favors by allowing the spoiled kid to be rewarded for his bad behavior, and that's what the Raiders traded for.
Remember, it was Mayock that gave the be all in or all out Antonio Brown.
Yeah, that was on the same day.
Yep, same day he got that 40,000.
Yep. Moving on to Carson Wentz and the pressure to live up to the preseason hype. The Eagles showed their faith in the fourth-year quarterback by signing him to a big extension and then trading Nick Foles. So there's a lot on his shoulders, but head coach Doug Peterson wants Carson Wentz to know he can lean on his teammates.
My message to him and really to the team is you know, let the offense work for you. You know, let the team work for you. You don't feel like you have to do things yourself. That's all it is. You know, with Carson, is just, even though he touches the ball every down, you know, just make the plays when they come and use the guys around you. Don't feel like you have to do it yourself.
Usually it's the opposite when you ask your franchise quarterback. This is going to come down to you doing this. Cece, what are fair expectations for Carson Wentz this season?
Well, I think the expectations, Jenna, what you said, they are with Doug Peterson. For all franchise quarterback, including Carson Wentz, I need you to do this. But what I need you to do is rely on some of the best talent that we have in pro football. You have the best offensive line. You got depth on the offensive line. You have skilled guys. You have veterans. You have younger players. You got guys like Thomas Howard, guys trying to prove themselves. Deshaun Jackson coming back to Philadelphia after a disappointing leaving there, wanting to be back as a deep threat. Intermediate, what do you need? Zach Ertz, you need someone across the middle. You need someone in the slot, Nelson Aguilar. Like, it's stacked. So, yeah, I do want you to do it. But I want you to rely on these people and realize that we've equipped you to be one of the great quarterbacks in the league. There's no excuses for you. So I think that removing Nick Foles that helped him more than anything else. And then also looking at being self-aware. He realized he wasn't perfect as a leader. He realized there were other things that he could do. And he realizes that, man, I got to keep myself healthy. If I'm going to be able to earn everyone's respect in that locker room, I already got the contract. But I need to be able to earn these guys' respect, and staying out there, that's the way to be able to do it. So I think Doug, Howie Roseman, how they've gone about it, the things they've said to him, shipping Nick Foles up and out of there, allowing him to not be next to him in the locker room, I believe it sets him up to have the best year of his career. I'm a believer in Carson Wentz because injuries are not something that stop me from believing in people because it's a collision sport. People are going to get hurt. Carson Wentz has been hurt. 3 years in the league's been hurt. In college football, got hurt. So, yes, is being available, is it one of the skills that we require all the great players? Yes, but there are going to be players that start their career with a number of injuries, and then they get it fixed. Carson Wentz, I'm already on the train. I'm not going to have to wait till, he got healthy. Now I'm a believer because he has all the tools as far as throwing the football, velocity, size, all the things I'd want in a franchise quarterback, Nick.
And as far as injuries go, much like with the Cleveland Browns for you, fairly, you need to see it before you can believe it. With Carson Wentz with injuries, it's going to be a question until there's nothing you can do right now, September 5th, about the injury question. It's going to have to be February 5th and play a full season playoff run no matter how deep they go. So I am almost going to set that aside for now. 2 points. One is you mentioned the leadership stuff. And I think this is really important. Carson Wentz, I was reading an article by Zach Berman in The Athletic, who covers the Philadelphia sports, talking about how Carson had defensive players over his house this summer, how Carson took to heart some of the anonymous source stories, saying, even if I think this was sensationalized, there's probably some truth there, if you dig down deep enough, and he needed to get better. But the other point is the way the Eagles have supported him. Over in the AFC, Patrick Mahomes could not have been entered into a better spot. Andy Reid, a team that's already good, so much talent on offense, a redshirt year to learn, and then go be unleashed. In the NFC,
got rid of Alex Smith.
Got rid of Alex Smith as well. Absolutely. There's no quarterback battle. It's going to be clean and clear cut. In the NFC, the first two picks of the draft in 2016, Wentz and Goff. For Goff, it took a year. For Wentz, it took a year as far as for us to see who he was. But they are both now in a position that any young quarterback would envy. You think Josh Rosen doesn't think, geez Louise? Maybe I'm not as good as those guys, but my God, the opportunity they have versus what I have.
Right.
Yes.
They have the deepest offensive line in football. They supplemented the running game more. They brought back Deshaun Jackson. They have not one, but I believe 2 quality tight ends and a really good defense. So I think Carson Wentz, just being who he has already shown us he can be with the support staff around him, is all he needs to do. And he doesn't need to go out and feel like, man, I have to prove I can win a Super Bowl in week 1, because you can't win a Super Bowl in week 1. The only way any asterisk that people apply to Wentz related to Foles, that cannot be removed until you get to the postseason. So not worrying about that at the beginning of the season is critical. And I think Doug Peterson's setting him up for success in that regard by having that be the message.
It's such a good point. And the organization has such great stability from the top down. There's no drama. There's no controversy. There's no one looking over his shoulder, Nick Foles, anymore. And he got paid. So now he just has to come in and play football, which is the thing he's really wanted to do and stay healthy the last couple of years. Let's move on to another NFC East team, the Cowboys. They are complete yet again. Ezekiel Elliott back at practice yesterday. That after signing his very lucrative 6-year, $90 million extension, making Zeke the highest paid running back in NFL history. We waited a long time to hear from him, and now that he's signed and delivered, here's what he had to say ahead of Sunday's divisional showdown against the New York Giants.
I was definitely really anxious, because I definitely wanted to be here for the start of the season. But I'm happy it got done when it did, and I'm glad I was able to rejoin my teammates and start the season with them. Just the biggest thing, during negotiations was, that was important with the Joneses, and was that we're trying to keep this team together, and because we have a good young team. To suit up in front of these fans, that's what they deserve, and just go out there and give them a show.
Was it important for you to be the highest paid running back in football?
It was.
Why?
because I believe I'm the best.
All right, Ezekiel Elliott talking about trying to keep this team together. And for the most part, this is the same team as they finished the season off with last year. Are these Cowboys better than last year's 10-6 team, CC?
I think anytime you can keep a team together with the amount of transition, with some continuity, so even they have the same players, they got a few coaches that change. And continuity, Coach Mangini, he'll be out here later. It's underrated in the league because continuity creates building blocks that, we finished here from just what we know, information standpoint. Forget how we played on the field, but I can add more information because I know this group of players, they know this, and they handled it last year. If you look at the last 8 games of the regular season and the playoff game for Dallas, you would have to think, man, I would like to keep this offense together. Amari Cooper was not there. He missed most of the beginning of the season, and we saw that Dak Prescott, who to me is the most valuable player in that offense, not the best. Zeke's the best player, but he's the most valuable because if he reaches his potential, then they can have Super Bowl aspiration. Because in the league, when teams expect you to be able to throw the football, you have to be able to throw it, and you have to be able to throw it at a level that teams feared. And we didn't see that in Dallas the first 2.5 years that Dak was there. We saw it in those last 8 games. We saw that in the playoffs. Yes, this is a dangerous, young football team. They are right. Offensive line is well seasoned. Zeke is ready to carry that load as far as 300 carries, 70 to 80 passes out of the backfield. And Amari Cooper, I believe that we will see only the best in him moving forward. So, yes, they are situated for success, Nick.
When you say you've got to be able to throw the ball when other teams expect you to throw it, I hearken back to what DeMarcus Ware said yesterday. Can't just be a play-action passer. You can't only be able to succeed passing through misdirection or when they don't know what you're going to do. It's got to be 3rd and 9. The whole world knows I'm throwing the football. Can I do that? And that is the next progression for Dak Prescott. But to directly answer your question, I do think the Cowboys are better than last year. That does not necessarily mean you will have a better record, but they should be better. What was their biggest offseason loss? MC Cole Beasley? Like, who is their big departure? They get back Travis Frederick. They have all their young core back. When you have young players like Lyle Collins and Dak, guys that are still on the uptick, you should be better. Now, the offensive coordinator spot, Kellen Moore, is a question mark.
Right. To me, I wouldn't say the biggest loss, the biggest transition or biggest question mark.
Absolutely. And so that is something we'll see, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt in that regard. But the reason that I feel a team that won 10 games last year could be better, and yet I don't think they're going to make the playoffs is, man, that when they won 8 of their last 10, including the playoff game, because they went from 3-5 to win, they won 8 of their next 10 to end the season. Every single one of those wins was a 1-score game. In that 8-2 stretch, the point differential was +6. Meaning their wins were super close, their losses were not nearly as close. They had the 23-0 loss, they had the loss in the playoff game to the Rams that I think was 8 or 10 points. And so I say that to say this, I think the Cowboys are more talented. I think the Eagles, unfortunately, though, are far better equipped than they were last year. And the Cowboys, when you go over the course of the season, it was 8-2 in 1-score games. That tends to regress back to the mean a little bit. You don't win all those field goal games that you won last year. So I do think the Cowboys are in better position. I don't know if that means an 11 or 12 win season.
Are we going to see a marked difference in their offense with Kellen Moore there as their offensive coordinator? We don't talk that much about him. He'll be calling plays now. Is that going to be different?
Right. I think it's still going to take some time. I think from an offensive standpoint, they've communicated what they want to do. They want to be a little more motion. They want to create a little more hocus pocus. They not give the defense 25 seconds to know what formation they're in and kind of predict what they're going to run. So I believe it's going to take some time for that, but it all starts with their passing attack. We know they can run the ball.
Yep.
Their passing attack, I believe their passing attack is much improved by adding Randall Cobb. It's just not he's a better player than Cole Beasley. He can do more things than Cole Beasley. He can stretch the defense better than Cole Beasley. Michael Gallup, I believe, on the outside is their speed receiver opposite Amari Cooper. I believe he will have a breakout season. And Amari Cooper, if he can get his heel All right, he's got an issue with his heel. He missed most of training camp, most of practice. I believe he was going to build on because he missed all of last season. And him and Dak had developed a rapport during the season that I believe equates to them being more explosive and putting more fear into the defense, Nick.
And one last point on Dallas. Their starting lineup on each side of the ball, you can match up with maybe not the very best teams in football, but almost any team in football. But because they've drafted really well and they've paid those guys, their frontline players are pretty damn expensive. They don't have a lot of depth. And so when we know there's going to be injuries throughout an NFL season, some teams like Philly are better situated to sustain some injuries.
Yes.
The Cowboys are built kind of like the Rams last year. Really, really good front line, and got to be fortunate with the injury luck. The Rams were last year, by the way.
Right.
They don't. Once you get to the 2 deep of the 3 deep, they don't have a ton of depth you love.
All right, let's take a break. Coming up, we got some football tonight. The 100th NFL season kicks off. We discuss the Packers and Bears ahead on First Things First. Back here, First Things First, joined by Coach Eric Mangini. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Great to have you here. We got some football to finally discuss with you. Not that we didn't love all your preseason stuff.
I had forgot you were on the show, but I was quoting you earlier in the show as far as Coach Mangini, talking about continuity.
We quote Coach a lot,
he's the most quoted person.
Oh, absolutely.
There's
Very
no question
easily.
about it.
I'm hoping I quote him enough that he's like Coach Pagano, go from this seat to out there. I'm working on it, girl. I'm working on it now.
Talk some Cowboys. Ezekiel Elliott. Actually, we'll talk Rams. Zeke isn't the only player who got paid this week. Rams signed Jared Goff to an extension worth $134 million. That includes an NFL record $110 million guaranteed. The signing ensures that Goff and head coach Sean McVay, both now signed for the next few years, can continue to run this high-powered Rams offense together. Here's McVay on his franchise quarterback.
I think it's great for him. It's something that demonstrates a commitment that we've always felt to him.
It definitely increases your urgency a little bit when you know that type of commitment, but I don't feel like I'll change my process or anything, but I do understand the responsibility of it and all that stuff that goes with it.
It's just the start. You know, this isn't a finality. This is just the start of him continuing to grow, continuing to lead us, and what he's done over the last couple of years. It's been a blessing for me to be able to work with him.
There's a reason why I was the number 1 pick, and when I was going through early on in my career, you have to go back to understanding that what you did prior to that is why you are there, and it's no different with this. You know, what I've done up to this point is why this has happened, so don't try to be something that hasn't got you there.
All right, so McVay and Goff now married with this offense for a few years to come at least. Coach, what do you make of the Rams' commitment to Jared Goff?
Well, there's a few things. The first thing is I love the fact that nobody heard about this.
Great point.
Love the fact that they were able to do this contract without it being an ongoing saga every single day where everybody had to discuss it. So to me, that's good business, and that shows that organizationally things are on the right track. In terms of what he said after he signed the contract, he's right. He doesn't have to do anything besides be who he's been. That's why they signed him to this extension. That's what they want him to be. But he opened it up with there definitely is a sense of urgency with the new contract. And that conflict there, to me, could be a little bit problematic because guys do feel this sense of, I got paid all this money, I need to be this Superman instead of being the great player that they've been and continuing to progress. I'd say the commitment makes sense based off of Carson Wentz and Dak Prescott and where the market is and the young guys that are getting signed. My biggest concern is a little bit like Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz has no playoff experience, so we don't know what he's going to do there. So that's an unknown. With Jared, he does, but his playoff experience has been disappointing.
He's not been great.
2 touchdowns in 4 games. His completion percentage is almost down 10%. His quarterback rating is almost down 25% or 23%, whatever the numbers are. They're pretty staggering when you look at what he did in the regular season versus what he's done in the postseason. And that, to me, is a little bit like what he said at the beginning of his contract. It feels like he's adding pressure to himself in the postseason to be something different, and that's leading to this constriction of performance instead of following the same path.
Yeah, I know Sean McVay, he expressed to a good friend of mine, Peter King. I talked to Peter last week, and he spent time with him. And as far as when he gets into the playoff, he does put more pressure on himself, but he tries to not make mistakes. And Sean McVay wants him to have the same personality in the playoffs, to being more aggressive. He doesn't care if he throws. I told him, I don't care if you throw interceptions, but I want you to be more aggressive. So to me, playoff football is totally different. And there's not a lot of players that have instant playoff success, not unless they have a dominant running game or an outrageous defense. If you look at the guys who have a good playoff record, Look how they get started.
Russell Wilson, how he got started. Tom Brady, how he got started. Ben Roethlisberger, how he got started. Those guys were not the great quarterbacks they are now when they won their first Super Bowl.
And I'm very fortunate that I was able to cover the game. And you know what we said about all those quarterbacks? We were consistent. Well, can Tom Brady, can they throw the ball? Does he have to be on a run-oriented team with defense? Russell Wilson. Oh, it's the defense. It's Pete Carroll and them. And then Russell developed as a passer. All of these guys, we had those same question marks about. Yes, Goff wants to be better in the postseason, but they've set him up for success. They're moving into that new arena. Stan Kroenke, not only does Stan have a whole bunch of money, Stan's married to a woman that's got a bunch of money. The Rams are doing things the right way. When they moved to Los Angeles, when they hired McVay, when they hired their general manager, when they got Goff as a quarterback, when they went out and even hired Ndamukong Suh for a year, I need you to do this. Remember we had the question marks about them keeping that locker room together?
Right.
So the Rams, we got to give them credit. As far as institutional talent, they got it. They're doing everything the right way, and how they've handled things. Man, Coach mentioned something. Keeping it under the radar. We in the media start thinking they're not in love with Goff.
Yep.
Actually, it was the other way. They're madly in love with them, trying to get this thing hitched from Dayton. We're going to let's get married for a long time.
I thought they were waiting. I thought they wanted to see him do it another year, because here's my only concern with Jared Goff. We know when all the pieces are in place, he's excellent. But is he a quarterback that if one of those things changes, he falls off a cliff?
But one of those things is changing. Todd Gurley is not the same Todd Gurley.
Well,
would you consider that a little bit of a change?
It's a concern, and while I'm not ready to definitively say Todd Gurley's not the same Todd Gurley, there's reason to believe he won't be. So arthritic knee, that doesn't seem like it's going to go away. Okay, I haven't seen the arthritic knee get better.
There's a reason why how old is Todd Gurley?
He's 26.
Okay, 25. Is there a reason why I'm not practicing 2 practices in a row, Coach? Yeah, there's a reason, because your knee can't hold up. So I don't believe that the Todd Gurley we saw the last 2 years we'll ever see him again. I still believe he can be a 1,000-yard rusher, though.
So, but even if we just throw out his rookie season, year one, which even by rookie quarterback standards was a disaster. If we just say, listen, it was Jeff Fisher, the offense, all that, that's fine. But even last year, where the team was great, there is pre-Cooper Kupp injury and post-Cooper Kupp injury, Jared Goff, and the numbers are jarring. You mentioned it, the way his rating dropped in the playoffs. He goes from 113 rating in the MVP discussion, along with Mahomes and Breeze, to a below-average quarterback, and that's not over a small sample size. And so the question I have for you, Coach, is because of how well the Rams, to Chris's point, have been built, because of the intelligence on the coaching staff, I think the most diverse receiving corps as far as Cook's #1 receiver and a deep threat. Robert Woods said himself, I think I can do everything as well as any receiver in football. Cooper Kupp, an excellent slot receiver. Todd Gurley, who up until the arthritis hit his knee, or up until the knee injury, was maybe the best running back in football. How many quarterbacks could you have plugged into Jared Goff's spot, and he would have had similar levels of success in that system, with that coach, with that talent? That's the major question that I have. And can he have that same level of success if you start to pare away some of that talent?
Well, and we talk about this with Dak Prescott. You're also betting that the guy continues to develop.
Yes.
He's a smart guy with high character who's in the system for the third year. You're anticipating that he's going to grow like all players, like Tom Brady grew, like a lot of great quarterbacks as they get more experience. And he's gotten some experience in the playoffs. Where I see his challenges is the Rams have been incredibly healthy. They have had tremendous health,
the last 2 years.
Especially on the offensive line, and they had continuity on the offensive line. Now they've got 2 new players on the offensive line. That's going to be a challenge. Figuring out where Gurley is, that's going to be a challenge. The post-Super Bowl hangover, that's going to be a challenge. There's all these things and the pressure of a new contract. As much as you tell a guy, hey, just be who you are, there's this inherent need to justify your belief in him, and he's got to fight that. So it's going to be interesting to see where he can go and how much he does progress based off his intangibles.
And real quick, I don't believe that graphic is fair to Jared Goff, because you need to have Sean McVay's face up there, because he's supposed to be the genius.
Sure.
Okay, why don't you have a tight end involved in your offense? And if you don't have a tight end involved in your offense, if you lose your slot receiver, your passing game and your offense is going to suffer. So next time we do that, y'all need to put the genius up there, because he's supposed to come up with a design for the young quarterback to perform.
All right, guys, get on that. Put McVay's face next to Goff. They can be a little two-headed. I'm fine with that.
We got to take a break. Coach, stick around. You love drama and off-the-field antics. That's your thing,
and
right?
Instagram posts
this
as well.
This is going to be great, because we're going to talk Antonio Brown next on First Things First.
Coach warned us.
Coach drama right here.
Coach warned us.
Back here with Coach Mangini, we're going viral. Zeke was back at practice yesterday after signing his new deal. And the new highest-paid running back in league history got some love from the last holder of that title, Todd Gurley. Said, yes, sir, congrats. And check this out. The Cowboys team store already had this feed, Zeke bobble, in their store yesterday afternoon. Best bobble you've ever seen, Nick? That's a
bobblehead. Yeah. Well, here's my only critique. It is a very good bobblehead. It looks like him. The hair is good. Doesn't have the nose rings, which I actually think is an improvement over the actual Zeke that does now have 2 nose rings. Is that a bowl of ice cream he's eating? Because I've always assumed when he's doing the feed Zeke thing, for some reason it's cereal. Maybe because there's that viral video of him eating cereal like that. So that looks like ice cream with maybe some caramel sauce. I always thought it's him with like some Fruity Pebbles, maybe some Cocoa Puffs.
Isn't that a box of cereal?
I think John Madden say, feed him what the boy wants, whatever he wants.
I've never drilled down that deeply onto what he's eating, but I do like the fact that you're trying to get some of the $100 million back with the bobblehead.
Oh, yeah.
There's going to be a lot of bobbleheads.
There's going to be a lot
Can I get you one of those, Coach?
Jerry went out and bought an energy company to offset his losses.
You did?
Oh, yeah. Check it out a couple days ago. Oh, yeah.
All of my energy stocks are down.
Coach Mangini, by the way, day trader, market manager.
Yeah.
It's true.
Moving on to Antonio Brown now, who, for whatever reason, perhaps because it is intertwined in his DNA, simply cannot avoid drama. AB was fined for missing practices this preseason, something that didn't happen an awful lot in Pittsburgh, being held accountable. Yesterday, he posted this on Instagram, a letter from GM Mike Mayock, fining him $54,000, to which Brown responded, quote, when your own team want to hate. All right, Coach, what was your reaction to this?
When you hear about breakups and someone says, it's not you, it's me, this is it's not me, it's you. Like, it's at some point you have to realize that you fall under the same rules that every other player on the team is, and they've given you concession after concession after concession, and at some point it has to stop. And for you to react that way, because I'm sure that this wasn't the first warning. I'm sure there was a bunch of verbal warnings of, hey, if this happens again, you're going to be fined. Hey, if this happens again, you're going to be fined. And the percentage of stuff that we hear about is maybe 10% of the things that actually happen. So we're getting this small, tiny little portion of the dysfunction that's created. And at some point, enough is enough. Now, all that being said, when you go into a situation and you're going to take chances on guys that have created challenges for other organizations, you cannot be surprised when they create a challenge for your organization. It's like drafting a guy who's slow. Don't be mad at him because he's slow. That's what he is. You went into it with eyes wide open. Yeah. It happens all the time. We know he's slow, and then you're mad at him for being slow. Like, oh, what did you expect?
That's a great analogy. That's all right. The other part of this that I find noteworthy is what Mike Mayock actually put in this letter. And I printed off a really big version of this so you can go along with me on it, Coach.
Without my glasses.
Which is the final line.
You want mine, Coach?
He says basically he's violated the penalties available under club's discipline schedule, the CBA, your NFL player contract, including but not limited to additional fines and discipline for engaging in conduct detrimental to the club. To me, that is setting the template if you need to after the first year, if it doesn't go well, if he does have more violations, when year 2 is fully guaranteed, to be able to say, you voided those guarantees with conduct detrimental. Not that this alone will do it, but that if there's another incident, if there's another instance that they can say, and I'm sure there'd be a grievance and a fight, essentially, if they want to fire him, it would be with cause, not without cause.
No, the conduct detrimental clauses are part of the CBA, and you put in team rules related to conduct detrimental, and you share those with the players at the start of the season. Everybody needs to know what the rules are, and then once they know what the rules are, there's a lot of things that can fall under conduct detrimental to the team, and a lot of that is standard language. Sometimes with fines, you know that you're going to lose an arbitration or it's going to be cut in half, but it's one of those things of, hey, you've created such a big headache for us. Yep. We're going to create a big headache for you. And if you want that $54,000 back, you got to show up in the offseason with your representative and your lawyer and go to this arbitration hearing. And a lot of guys, especially when they have a ton of money, won't do it. So it's like, you want to annoy us, we're going to annoy you. At some point, let's come to a place where we're both operating with the same level of respect and
professionalism.
Professionalism, not just for the club, but for everybody else who sits in that room, for every other guy who's trying to get better, who's trying to win, who cares. Like, just stop it. Just stop it. Enough.
And when you're a part of big organizations, you know there's information, and I don't know what it is, but ever since I came into an NFL locker room, it was my understanding that there's going to be stuff that go on here that no one's ever going to know about. Like, no one's going to know about your family business. Now, I grew up in a large family of 7. My mom used to always tell me, we can talk about the family business here, but I don't want my family business in the street. For years, we have not told the truth. Buddy Ryan did me the biggest solid anyone could ever do me. He cut me and created an excuse so people wouldn't know what I was actually dealing with. And this is what we've done for players for years, coaches, organizations. We don't tell the public the truth. And I believe it's helped lead to being the most popular sport that we have in the United States. I don't believe it would be as popular if we knew all the things that went on. So for them and Mike Mayock, and man, God bless Mike Mayock. I'm glad he put his foot down. I'm glad they gave him the power to put his foot down because he deserves a chance. Just like every guy in that locker room who's dependent on AB to play at a certain level, it's their career. And to him, he don't even care. He don't care about the other wide receivers. He don't care about the offensive lineman. He doesn't care about Mike Mayock's career. But they have sure enough put the gauntlet down, and this is just the beginning of an ultimate divorce that's going to happen. I don't believe he'll make it through 2 years there with the Raiders or be able to make it to Las Vegas. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, they allowed this in Oakland, traded for it. It didn't show up as a free agent.
Completely enabled him, which is why he got away with it there and felt empowered to be able just assume that he could get away with it here. He was that player there and it worked. Hey, I'll pull the same thing here. And I think this was a slap in the face. What I think helped the Raiders was him posting this online so everybody can kind of now have the same warning that he got.
But look, $54,000 to him is a rounding error. It's such a small percentage of what he makes. It's more of a shot fired across the bow of, okay, enough is enough, and now we're going to move into this area. And 54 can quickly become a lot more, and there's got to be a decision of, are we going to find a space that we both can operate in, or is it going to just be this clashing throughout the course of the season?
And one other thing that I find interesting is the dates on this. So he was fined $40 grand for missing preseason training camp on August 18th. That was the date Mayock famously said, you're either all in or you're all out. Basically, that was the day Mayock made it clear to everyone he'd had enough of this. The walkthrough he skipped was August 22nd. That's 4 days after. And to me, that's relevant because even after Mike Mayock said to everyone publicly, and I'm sure AB,
yes,
we've had enough of this, he skips a walkthrough. I think that's on a game day, August 22nd. And that, to me, is another signal that Antonio is not getting the message and does not have much of an interest in changing his behavior.
I had a coach before high school and middle school taught me. He said, Chris, I'm going to teach you not to quit. And the reason why is because once you quit, it's easy to quit. And once you not show up, it's easy. No show, 100%. No call in Pittsburgh leads to these things. Oh, walkthrough, that's not important. Oh, practice, that's not important. Still continuing to get away with it in Pittsburgh. Didn't get away with it here, Jenna.
All right, we got to take a break, Coach. We'll see you a little bit later on. Coming up, how will Aaron Rodgers look in a new offense tonight against the Chicago Bears? That's next on First Things First. All right, we'll get to Aaron Rodgers in a second, but first, high school football.
Explosive win over Middle Tennessee State.
Where is this? Michigan.
Oh, okay, yeah, they got a couple guys can play some football up there.
Well, one of those guys,
just not in college.
Highs, Charles Allen. Look at this. Watch him.
Can we watch the safety here? Young man. It's like he stopped to try to pull his flag. It's tackle at this level, fella. What's he doing? What's
Nick,
the safety
you
doing?
Recruited him. He's slow, short. What are you getting upset for?
You got jokes.
Charles, here we go. Cheyenne Mountain High School in Colorado. Brad Helton laying out for the big grab.
Oh, great throw here by the quarterback. Puts it right over the defender's shoulder. And my man mistimes his jump, but spears it before it hits the ground with that left. See how he gets his hand behind it and stop the point of it?
It's a great catch.
Stop the point, catch the fat.
Because your point about mistiming the jump on the way down. This is difficult,
University
too.
of the Philippines guard Ricky Paulo Rivera with the alley-oop.
The post-dunk 360 is not something we often see. He pulls it off.
Oh, yeah, I like that. Hold the rim, man.
Don't
Stop
fall.
yourself from getting injured.
Absolutely. University of the Philippines making it happen.
That ain't a bad place to go to school.
Okay.
Philippines. Yeah.
Unaware. Good to know.
Great weather. Great weather. On to Aaron Rodgers. He and the Packers will kick off the NFL season tonight against divisional rival Chicago Bears. For Rodgers, he's playing the Bears for the 22nd time, a remarkable 16-5 in his career against Chicago. However, this is Rodgers' first game under new head coach Matt LaFleur. And when asked about tonight's offense, here's what he had to say.
Everybody needs to understand that this is going to be the first kind of iteration of our offense, and because it is a new scheme and there are new pieces, you know, this is going to grow from this point. I'm excited about the stuff that we have the stuff we've been working on in camp, and there's going to be even more. We have a lot of room to grow from what we put on the field on Thursday.
Can I translate?
Yes.
It might not be great. You might not love what you see tonight. We may not win.
A little built-in excuse.
Yeah.
We're going to build on it.
But this is just day one of many. See, what are you going to be looking for from Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers tonight?
Well, this is what I'm going to be looking for, because I know tonight, every NFL game, when the quarterback comes to the line of scrimmage, because the conversation has been about the audible system, all right? Matt LaFleur has said, through Kyle Shanahan, who mentored him, they don't have an audible system, but what they do is they call a play, and if that play is not a good look against the defense, there's a number of plays that come off that play. They just don't call them audibles. They call them can plays. And that means these plays can work if we don't like the look of that one. So the audible system, this is how the audible system goes. A coach installs something, and then he sees if the students can handle it. Then every once in a while, the class is not an AP class, but you have a student come in the door and you're like, wow, what are you doing here? Like, what are you doing in this class? You should be an AP. And that's who Aaron Rodgers is. Like, he is a football savant. The players that play with him say he can see things, and we know you got to give him credit. He is the best thrower of the football. So what might not look good to you, in his eyes, I can get that ball in there. That's what my guy Dan Marino used to always tell me. That's open for me. Warren Moon, you say, Cris, you used to need this much space. Now you need this much because I'm here. So I believe that will evolve too. The canned plays will be more than what they have done because Kyle Shanahan, he's never coached a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers. Even Matty Ice, he talked to me. That system evolved. Matty Ice calls a lot of the plays now, but in the beginning, he didn't do that in Atlanta. He didn't do that when he was with Kyle Shanahan. So for me, I'm watching the line of scrimmage, the pre-snap, what's Aaron sound like, what's the offense sound like, and did they bring that running game from Tennessee? That's the number one thing I want to see from an offensive standpoint, Nick.
More on the running game in a moment, but to build off the audible discussion, because that has been the central discussion surrounding the Packers this offseason. And this week it was clear LaFleur and Rodgers had both gotten sick. Bless you. LaFleur had said, I don't know what the deal is with you guys in the media. You guys constantly are grasping for something on this. Rodgers also got sick of talking about it. And I feel like both of them wanted to say this. Do you guys think we're dumb people? Do you think that, Matt LaFleur, do you think that I would get a quarterback that is Aaron Rodgers and tell him he can only do things I let Marcus Mariota do? And Aaron Rodgers wanted to say, and he can't say this, of course, do you think I would get sick of a coach I won a Super Bowl with so much so that this is a rejuvenation with a new head coach? And when he gets here, I'm going to be like, I'm not changing a damn thing. Right. Both of them, I feel like, want to say, of course, we know there's going to be adjustments because in any new relationship, there are going to be things that are different than previous relationships. Now, who is going to adjust more? How much of a give and a take is there going to be? And to circle back to the running game component, is Matt LaFleur going to find out how good is Aaron Jones really?
Yes.
Aaron Jones led the NFL last year in yards per carry of any back with at least 100 carries. The previous season, he was 5.5 yards per carry.
Remarkable number.
But the last 2 years combined, 214 carries. And I know he's missed a few games, but he's averaged less than 10 carries per game over the last 2 years, despite being at 5.5 yards per carry each of the last 2 years. How is Matt LaFleur going to use him? How much better is the defense going to be? All those types of things, because I don't think Rodgers is going to come out and say, bleep you, coach, I'm doing my own thing. And I don't think LaFleur is going to come out and say, you can't do anything.
And I think reporters, especially those who are following Green Bay on a regular basis, are doing themselves a disservice. You don't go to an NFL quarterback, NFL head coach and say, explain to me your audible system. That would be like someone telling me, reporters been like, hey, explain, Cris, how you catch the ball. Well, I'm going to explain it, but are you going to understand it? Do you think you're going to be able to do that? And being able to explain the audible system to the reporters, it doesn't make sense. So they are right. That is a ridiculous question. And they do have an audible system or can play. These plays can go against certain defenses. So yes, you are right. It is a little insulting that Aaron Rodgers and the coach, both of them, wouldn't know what they were up against.
When you catch it, you probably with your fingers, right? Or you bring it in, you hold it in.
Thank you for proving Chris's point.
Yep, that's what I'm here for. I'm making you guys look good. High five.
I got you.
Coming up, should the Eagles still be favored to win the NFC East after Zeke's extension? That's next on First Things First. Time for stories to start your morning. So yesterday, Colin Kaepernick posted this edited video of himself working out with Odell Beckham. Cris Carter, what do you make of this?
I'm glad OBJ got involved. I had requested to Cap, hey, Cap, I need to see some video you working out. So what does Cap do? He sent me some video, but he's in the gym. Man, I know you got body size and all that. I need to see you throwing the ball, bruh. I know there's not 78 quarterbacks better than him in the NFL, and he was able to show. I'm glad he put the video out there, and I'm glad OBJ was able to get a workout. I want to see him throwing to NFL wide receivers.
Obviously, he's not going to get an NFL job. The NFL has blackballed him. But I would like maybe for Colin to consider the XFL. He obviously can still play. And listen, some people are going to continue to move the goalposts on him and say, well, okay, we saw this, now I want to see this, now I want to see that. Right. It's never going to be enough. But I'm glad Odell helped him out by working out with him. Can't find a better throwing partner than Odell.
Moving on, tonight the 100th NFL season kicks off with the Bears and Packers facing off. A lot of attention has been on Aaron Rodgers, but don't forget about Mitch Trubisky, the Bears quarterback entering his third year, looking to lead the team back to the postseason. Cris, what do you expect from Trubisky this season?
I expect him and Matt Nagy, the young coach there, to continue to grow that offense. Last year, man, they did a lot of things like Kansas City at the line of scrimmage. You don't know who's got the ball, wide receivers, reverses, Tyreek Cohen, a dynamic player that they use all around the field. But ultimately, it's about your quarterback. Can you throw the ball and down the field? I believe that Allen Robinson came over last year. He should develop. 2 years ago, he blew out his knee. He should be a lot healthier. But you got to make plays with your wide receiver and that quarterback. I do believe that he is a franchise quarterback now.
Well, and this is a huge year for him. Listen, you're in year 3. You were the number 2 pick of a draft, going ahead of Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. If you're the number 2 pick of a draft, if the Jets in a couple years
I had almost forgotten that.
Man,
goodness.
Think about if the Jets in a couple years are looking at Darnold as a game manager, just got to be a guy, a caretaker. It would be disappointing. He was taking 3. For the Bears to be a Super Bowl team, he needs to, at least this year, start to truly show why he was taken as highly as he was.
Antonio Brown hopped on Instagram last night, responded to a letter saying the Raiders were fining him $54,000, that for missed practice this offseason. He responded the only way he can, saying his own team is hating on him. Nick, what'd you make of this?
Listen, I think when it comes to Antonio, my colleagues Jenna Wolfe and Cris Carter are going to be proven correct. And me, I'll always bet on talent. I'll deal with the crazy. And maybe there's a level of crazy that one can't deal with.
Well, you got to be a crazy person to say that. But go ahead.
Antonio, it's crazy to know crazy.
I mean,
great.
Antonio. Okay. Antonio continues to just up the ante on. It's as if he's trying to, touch the electric fence, see if you can get through. I don't know why he would post this on Instagram. I do know why the Raiders fined him. They wanted to let him know, hey, it's not like Pittsburgh where there's one set of rules for you and a few other players, one set of rules for everyone else. But this is just a terrible start to a relationship that hasn't even started. He hadn't even played a game with the Raiders yet. They're already off to a bad start.
How'd you like to be called a hater, and I trade a 3rd and a 5th for you? I tear up your contract, give you $30 million guaranteed, but I'm hating.
Of course.
Really? Well, what do you say to your friends?
I gave you exactly what you wanted. I got you out of Pittsburgh, gave you guaranteed money.
I'm glad for Mike Mayock, because this is just the beginning of a divorce that it'll take about 2 years. The romance will wear off. Yep. Older guy dating a cute young girl, won't last. Won't last.
Old? Okay.
Well, the Raiders, they're old. They've been doing this around
AB's the cute young lady?
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously,
you know she ain't gonna.
Obviously.
Man, she don't want to read no books or nothing. She don't want to grow.
Okay.
She doesn't want to grow.
Okay.
On to the NFC East
Come on,
now.
man. I'm in the books, man.
I'm sorry.
Even though the Cowboys have Zeke back in their fold, they're still looking up at the Eagles as favorites in the division. That, according to Fox Bet, the Cowboys are trying to be the first team to win the division in back-to-back seasons since Philly did it in 2003-2004.
It's been 15 years.
See?
Wow.
Who is the best team in the NFC East?
Come on. The Eagles. Top to bottom. Fly, Eagles, fly. They have a roster that, to me, has been built not only through free agents the right way, but organically. We're going to draft a bunch of good guys. Howie Roseman, there's been no turnaround in front office like Howie Roseman. Man, Chip Kelly, I can't use this guy. He don't know nothing about pro football. They put him in a broom closet. They got rid of Chip Kelly, brought Howie out. I was like, this guy is amazing. He has put together a roster that is top to bottom, 1 to 53, the best roster in football. And they are set up because what's going to happen is this weekend, you're going to start to see guys get injured. Because you cannot go from walking in place to running full speed and not to expect to get some injuries. They are set up to sustain injuries, absent of their quarterback injury, better than anyone in football. They got a front 7 rotation that they can get an injury. They got an offensive line that's the best in football. Got another first-round pick that's going to come off the bench and be a swing tackle or a replacement guard. So, yes, Howie Roseman, this organization they have supported their quarterback, Carson Wentz. And yes, I know Carson Wentz has been hurt, but I still believe in players that get hurt earlier in their career. It's a collision sport. There are going to be some guys that do it, and Carson Wentz has shown us the last 4 years, that being college and in the pros, he can't stay healthy. It still doesn't stop me from believing in the talent. He's a big, strong guy, can throw the ball to any place on the field. He's got touch. He's got velocity. He manages the game well, and I believe that he's a winner. In Philadelphia, he needs to be able to lead them into the playoffs to be able to get the monkey from Nick Foles off his back.
All right, so let's just dismiss Washington and the Giants. This is a two-team race. This sounds to me like...
Well, it ain't us. They dismissed themselves.
Absolutely. It sounds to me like this is time for a vintage tale of the tape. Let's just go unit by unit.
Okay.
Offensive line. I think they're the two best in football. I would call it a push. I think the Dallas starters might be slightly better, but I think the Eagles' depth is far superior. Call the offensive line a push. Running back core, obviously Dallas, because they have Zeke. You have the best running back in football, so that's one for Dallas. Wide receiving core, obviously Philly. Defensive line, obviously Philly. Linebackers, obviously Dallas, to me. I think that linebacker core is excellent.
Yes.
To me, the secondary is about a push. For both teams, maybe the biggest question mark on the team. And maybe Cowboys fans say, hey, we have Byron Jones. You give us the credit. Okay, the Eagles
If
have
there's a
Malcolm
slight
Jenkins.
edge, I would say the Cowboys.
Okay, so give that to Dallas.
Yep.
Coach, who has the edge? No question, it's Philadelphia. Quarterback, who has the edge? No question, it's Philadelphia. Those are the two most important spots.
Even throw in general manager, who could put it all together.
Or who's most likely to make a midseason addition.
Exactly.
Which you don't see often in the NFL for any team except for Philly.
We heard the rumor yesterday. Man, they trying to get Melvin
Gordon. Absolutely. They were
stop.
in the market for Melvin Gordon potentially. So to me, this is not an indictment on Dallas. I think Philadelphia is one of the 5 best teams in football this year. A lot of people, I'm sure, are going to pick Philadelphia to go to the Super Bowl. And even though I'm not one of them, I'm not going to think they're crazy for it. There are a lot of teams that I think could be. I think Carolina's going to be really good. If Carolina were in the NFC East and you were asking me Carolina or Philadelphia, I'd say Philadelphia. The Bears, who we're talking about, if you were asking me Philadelphia or the Bears, I'd say Philadelphia. So it's not an indictment on Dallas. And to Chris's point on injuries, if this were Madden and you turned injuries off, I might pick Dallas. Because I think Dallas's frontline players, if you guarantee me we're getting perfect health throughout the team, which of course never happens in NFL history, I think Dallas's frontline players can go toe-to-toe with Phillies, the quarterback issue notwithstanding. But there are going to be injuries. The question is how many. Philly can sustain injuries on the offensive line better than any team in football, on the defensive line better than any team in football, in the running back room. They don't have elite-level running backs, but they got 3 or 4 competent running backs. Wide receivers, they have 4 quality running backs. Hell, tight end. Dallas Goedert would be the starting tight end for a lot of teams. They just have Zach Ertz. So their ability to sustain injuries plus the coach quarterback edge, to me, makes it decisively the team you once covered, the Philadelphia Eagles.
You could turn injuries off on Madden?
Yeah, of course. Injuries off, fatigue off. You can do a lot of things.
You could turn fatigue off?
Yeah, why not? It's a video game. Do whatever you want. You pay
only
for it.
stat you didn't go over when the Dallas Cowboys have Ezekiel Elliott.
They're 4-0 against Philly.
Okay.
And he hits them for $1.65 a game.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.